First story: The Alleyway Encounter by Alex Turner. It was a brisk autumn night in the heart of Chicago. The city's lights shimmered in the distance, casting long shadows in the narrow alley where I found myself, taking a shortcut home. As I briskly walked through the dimly lit passage, the echo of my footsteps resonated off the brick walls. I wasn't alone. I sensed it before I saw him, a mysterious figure, lurking in the shadows, blending seamlessly with the darkness. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I quickened my pace, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure mirrored my movements, always a few steps behind. I tried to dismiss it as mere coincidence, perhaps someone heading in the same direction. But as I turned into another alley, the oppressive feeling of being watched intensified. Glancing over my shoulder, I caught a glimpse of the figure, a silhouette, face obscured by the brim of a hat. My steps became more erratic as I navigated the labyrinth of alleys, the figure persistently tailing me. The rhythmic clicking of his shoes echoed louder, creating an unsettling symphony in the narrow passageways. I reached the end of the labyrinth, emerging into the relative safety of a well-lit street. The figure, however, remained hidden in the shadows. With a mix of relief and lingering unease, I continued my journey home, constantly checking over my shoulder. Days passed, and the memory of that encounter lingered. The unsettling feeling of being followed haunted my every step. I convinced myself it was paranoia, a trick of the mind, until one evening when I spotted the same figure in a crowded subway station. He stood among the bustling commuters, a silent observer in a sea of faces. Panic surged through me as I realized he was no stranger to the shadows. He was deliberate in his pursuit. I changed trains, switched platforms, but the figure persisted, always a constant presence in the periphery of my vision. Unable to shake the relentless pursuer, I sought refuge in a crowded coffee shop. As I glanced out the window, I saw him across the street, watching, waiting. Fear clutched at my chest, and I called the police, explaining the ongoing harassment. The officer arrived promptly, and we scoured the area, but the figure had vanished. The officer assured me they would increase patrols and recommended staying vigilant. Despite their efforts, the mysterious figure continued to haunt my every step. To this day, I live in a constant state of apprehension, the shadowy figure forever etched in my mind. The city that once felt vibrant and alive now holds an undercurrent of fear, a place where the line between safety and the ominous unknown blurs in the dimly lit alleyways. Second story: The Midnight Jogger by Samantha Reynolds. My cozy neighborhood in San Francisco held an unexpected horror that would forever alter my perception of the familiar streets I called home. It all began on a moonlit night when my habitual midnight jog took a chilling turn. The city was bathed in a soft glow, and the rhythmic thud of my sneakers on the pavement provided a soothing soundtrack. As I rounded the corner onto Maple Street, I noticed a solitary figure in the distance, jogging toward me. It wasn't uncommon for others to share the late-night streets, so I paid little attention. However, as the figure drew closer, a sense of unease settled over me. It wasn't the typical late-night jogger. There was an eeriness in the way they moved, graceful yet unnatural. A dark hood concealed their face, leaving only the faint glimmer of eyes. Attempting to dismiss my growing apprehension, I continued my jog, keeping a wary eye on the mysterious runner. The figure matched my pace, always a few steps behind, never overtaking me. I quickened my steps, and so did they, maintaining the unnerving distance. As I approached my house, a sinking feeling of dread gnawed at me. I dared a glance over my shoulder and found the hooded jogger still trailing me. Panic set in, and I sprinted towards my front door, fumbling with the keys. The rhythmic footfalls of the pursuer echoed in my ears. I stumbled inside and locked the door behind me, breathless and terrified. Through the window, I saw the hooded figure standing across the street, staring at my house with an unsettling stillness. The glint of their eyes felt like a penetrating gaze, an unspoken threat. The next morning, I reported the incident to the police. They promised to increase patrols in the area but found no evidence of the mysterious jogger. Days turned into weeks, and the unsettling encounters continued. I spotted the hooded figure in unexpected places, a shadowy presence, always watching. Haunted by the relentless pursuer, I altered my routines, avoiding late-night jogs and opting for well-lit routes. Yet the hooded figure found ways to reappear, a ghostly presence in the periphery of my life. The city that once felt like a haven became a labyrinth of anxiety. The hooded jogger, an enigma in the night, forever altered my sense of security, turning the familiar streets into a haunting maze of shadows and fear. Third story, The Lonely Road by James Bennett. Nestled in the quiet town of Savannah, Georgia, my peaceful drive down an isolated road would transform into a chilling experience that still haunts my every waking moment. It was a clear night, the stars casting a dim glow over the rural landscape as I navigated the winding path. The engine hummed softly, and my headlights pierced the darkness when I noticed a solitary figure standing by the roadside. Intrigued and concerned, I slowed down, offering a ride to the seemingly stranded traveler. The figure, obscured by the night, nodded silently and climbed into the back seat. The air in the car turned heavy as an unsettling silence settled. Glancing into the rearview mirror, I tried to catch a glimpse of the passenger, but their features remained hidden in the shadows. I attempted casual conversation, asking about their destination, but the figure responded with a vague gesture. As we continued down the desolate road, a profound unease crept over me. The passenger's presence felt alien, and a growing sense of dread pervaded the confined space. I decided to cut the tension with a friendly question. "What brings you out here so late?" In response, the figure uttered a single word: "Loneliness." The word hung in the air, sending shivers down my spine. The atmosphere in the car grew heavier, and the passenger's presence felt increasingly malevolent. I reached a decision to end this eerie encounter, offering to drop them off at the nearest gas station. The figure agreed with a nod, and as I pulled into the deserted station, I expected them to exit. However, when I turned around, the back seat was empty. Panic set in as I scanned the surroundings, but there was no sign of the mysterious passenger. Confused and unnerved, I drove away, the feeling of being watched lingering in the air. I never saw that enigmatic figure again, but the memory of that lonely road and its haunting passenger forever haunts my solitary drives. Fourth story, The Abandoned Warehouse by Claire Thompson. In the industrial outskirts of Detroit, where abandoned warehouses loom like forgotten giants, my curiosity led me to an encounter that still sends shivers down my spine. It was a sweltering summer afternoon when I stumbled upon an ominous, decaying structure, the perfect setting for an urban explorer's thrill. Determined to uncover the secrets within, I pushed open the creaking door, revealing a vast expanse of darkness. My flashlight flickered to life, revealing the remnants of a forgotten era, rusty machinery, discarded pallets, and a thick layer of dust that hung in the air. As I ventured deeper into the warehouse, an unsettling feeling settled over me. It wasn't the typical unease of exploring abandoned places. It was a sense of being observed. I dismissed it as my imagination, attributing the paranoia to the eerie atmosphere. As I approached a narrow corridor, a distant sound echoed through the silence, a soft, haunting melody. The music seemed to reverberate from the depths of the warehouse, a ghostly serenade that sent chills down my spine. Intrigued and apprehensive, I followed the haunting melody, my senses on high alert. The corridor led me to a dimly lit room, where an old piano sat in the center, its keys producing the melancholic tune. But the source of the music wasn't immediately apparent. As I approached, I noticed a figure in the shadows, a disheveled man, hunched over the piano. His eyes met mine, and a haunting smile played on his lips. He spoke in a raspy voice. "Do you hear the music too?" The encounter struck a chord of fear within me, and I stammered a response, my instincts urging me to leave. I retreated from the room, the haunting melody fading into the distance as I navigated the maze of the abandoned warehouse. The encounter left me shaken, questioning the boundary between the forgotten relics of the past and the mysterious figures that linger within their shadows. Despite the passage of time, the memory of that haunting melody and the enigmatic pianist still lingers in my mind, a reminder that even in the desolation of abandoned places, mysteries and chilling encounters can take root. Fifth story, The Phantom Photographer by Olivia Harris. Living in the historic town of Charleston, South Carolina, I never expected a seemingly innocent hobby to unravel into a sinister enigma. Photography had been my passion for years, and the city's rich architecture provided the perfect canvas for my creative pursuits. Little did I know that one photo would unravel a series of chilling events. On a quiet Sunday morning, I set out to capture the city's charm, wandering through the cobblestone streets with my camera in hand. The warm sunlight cast long shadows, creating an ideal backdrop for my photographs. As I framed a shot of an old church, I noticed a figure in the distance, a man with a vintage camera hanging around his neck. Intrigued by the shared interest, I approached, striking up a conversation about photography and the city's history. The man, clad in a faded suit, spoke eloquently about his love for capturing the essence of Charleston. As the conversation flowed, he suggested a collaboration, combining our photographic perspectives to create a unique series. Eager for a creative endeavor, I agreed, arranging to meet him the next day at a historic graveyard, the perfect setting for our joint project. As I wandered among the moss-covered gravestones, the man's presence became increasingly unnerving. His questions turned personal, probing into my life and experiences. Attempting to maintain a professional demeanor, I focused on the photography, capturing the play of light and shadow among the tombstones. However, the man's comments took a dark turn, referencing events from my past that he couldn't possibly know. Unease settled over me, and I decided to cut the collaboration short. As I bid farewell and walked away, I glanced back to find the man had vanished. Bewildered, I returned home, attempting to shake off the unsettling encounter. That night, I received an email containing the photos we had taken together. The images were exquisite, but a chill ran down my spine as I noticed a figure lurking in the background of each shot. The phantom photographer had left his mark on my work, a haunting presence that transcended the boundaries of the visible. I deleted the photos, hoping to erase the unsettling memories, but the phantom photographer's enigmatic presence lingered, a reminder that even the pursuit of artistic passion can lead to chilling encounters in the shadows of history. Sixth story, The Watchful Gardener by Marcus Bennett. In the serene suburbs of Seattle, where meticulously manicured lawns and pristine gardens adorned each home, I encountered a mysterious figure that transformed the tranquility of my neighborhood into an unsettling realm of paranoia. As a gardening enthusiast, I spent my weekends cultivating a vibrant array of flowers and plants in my backyard. The neighborhood had always been a close-knit community, and my neighbors often exchanged pleasantries over the low fences that separated our yards. One sunny afternoon, as I tended to my garden, I noticed a peculiar figure at the edge of the woods that bordered our neighborhood. The person stood motionless, their gaze fixed on my home. The distance and foliage obscured their features, but an unsettling feeling settled over me, an unwarranted intrusion into the privacy of my haven. Over the following days, the figure became a constant presence. At all hours, whether I was working in the garden or simply enjoying a quiet evening on my porch, I would catch glimpses of the watchful gardener standing among the trees. Their intent gaze never wavered, and a sense of unease settled over my once peaceful sanctuary. Determined to confront this mysterious observer, I ventured into the woods one evening, guided by the flickering glow of a distant street lamp. The forest was dense, and the crunch of leaves beneath my feet echoed eerily in the stillness. As I approached the edge of the trees, the figure stepped back into the shadows, remaining just out of reach. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice echoing through the wooded expanse. The figure remained silent, a stoic silhouette against the dim backdrop of the trees. Frustration and fear mingled within me as I pressed for answers, but the watchful gardener maintained their enigmatic silence. Days turned into weeks, and the unsettling presence persisted. The figure became a constant companion in the periphery of my life, casting a shadow over the once idyllic neighborhood. I confided in my neighbors, but none had noticed the watchful gardener, dismissing my concerns as paranoia. Determined to unravel the mystery, I set up surveillance cameras around my property, hoping to capture evidence of the elusive observer. Night after night, I reviewed the footage, searching for any sign of the figure lurking in the darkness. It wasn't until a particularly stormy night that the truth revealed itself. As rain pelted against my windows, I scrutinized the footage. In the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, I saw the figure emerge from the woods, a faceless silhouette drenched in raindrops. They stood at the edge of my yard, unmoving, their form distorted by the rain-soaked night. In a sudden burst of lightning, their features briefly illuminated, an expressionless mask and vacant eyes. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. The watchful gardener was not a person but a weathered garden statue obscured by the trees, casting an eerie illusion of sentience. Relief washed over me, but the experience left an indelible mark on my perception of the once peaceful neighborhood. The boundary between the familiar and the mysterious had blurred, and the watchful gardener, a silent sentinel of stone, became a haunting reminder that even the most innocuous elements can spark fear in the shadows of the ordinary. Seventh story, The Disappearing Hitchhiker by Lauren Reed. The winding roads of the Oregon countryside held a chilling secret, one that unfolded during a solitary drive home on a moonlit night. As I navigated the deserted highways, a sudden figure appeared on the side of the road, a hitchhiker, seemingly stranded in the darkness. Concerned for their safety, I pulled over to offer a ride. The hitchhiker, clad in tattered clothing and a worn backpack, gratefully accepted. The car's interior felt heavy with an unspoken tension as I attempted to make polite conversation. The hitchhiker, however, remained silent, their gaze fixed on the road ahead. As we ventured deeper into the rural landscape, an inexplicable unease settled over me. The hitchhiker's presence seemed to defy the norms of human interaction, a silent passenger in the moonlit night. I glanced at them through the rearview mirror, but their features remained obscured by shadows. Approaching a desolate stretch of road, I asked for their destination. Silence lingered before the hitchhiker uttered a single word. "Nowhere." The response sent a shiver down my spine, and a sudden realization gripped me. The hitchhiker had no clear destination, no place to call home. Attempting to mask my growing anxiety, I drove on, the road stretching endlessly before us. The hitchhiker's silence felt oppressive, the weight of their enigmatic presence hanging in the confined space. The air turned cold, and a chilling fear settled over me. As we reached a remote crossroads, I offered to drop the hitchhiker off, sensing an urgency to separate from their unsettling aura. They nodded silently, and I pulled over at the crossroads. But as they exited the car, an inexplicable terror overcame me. They vanished into the night, leaving no trace of their presence. Shaken to the core, I sat in the silent car, the darkness enveloping me. The hitchhiker had disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind an unsettling mystery that defied logic. I drove home with a sense of foreboding, haunted by the enigma of the disappearing hitchhiker, and the realization that some encounters in the depths of the night remained shrouded in the chilling unknown. 8th story, The Library Observer by Christopher Adams. In the quiet town of Providence, Rhode Island, where history and academia coexisted seamlessly, I found myself entangled in a perplexing web of mystery within the hallowed halls of the local library. As an avid reader and frequent visitor, the library had always been my sanctuary, until an enigmatic figure disrupted the tranquility of my literary haven. One crisp autumn evening, I immersed myself in the musty pages of an ancient tome, surrounded by the comforting scent of aged paper and the soft rustling of pages turning. The library's dim lighting cast a warm glow, creating an atmosphere of intellectual serenity. However, this sense of calm would soon be shattered. At the edge of my peripheral vision, I noticed a figure, a man dressed in anachronistic attire, blending seamlessly with the antiquity of the library's surroundings. He stood among the towering bookshelves, his gaze fixed intently on my chosen reading spot. The unsettling feeling of being watched sent a shiver down my spine. I attempted to dismiss the intrusion, attributing it to the eccentricities of fellow bibliophiles. Yet, as I delved deeper into my book, the figure's presence persisted. I felt the weight of his gaze, an unspoken scrutiny that transcended the usual library etiquette. Curiosity mingled with unease, prompting me to confront the observer. As I approached, he acknowledged my presence with a nod, but his eyes remained fixated on the bookshelves. I attempted conversation, asking about his interest in literature and the reason behind his peculiar attire. To my surprise, he responded in cryptic phrases, speaking of forgotten manuscripts and ancient knowledge hidden within the library's vast collection. The encounter took a surreal turn as he handed me a faded map, claiming it would unveil the library's hidden truths. Skepticism and fascination warred within me as I studied the cryptic symbols on the aged parchment. Determined to unravel the mystery, I followed the map's winding paths through the labyrinthine stacks, each step tinged with a sense of foreboding. The library transformed into an otherworldly realm, the air thick with the weight of forgotten stories and arcane secrets. As I reached the map's final destination, a secluded chamber at the heart of the library, the figure vanished. I found myself alone, surrounded by ancient manuscripts and dusty tomes. The enigma of the library observer lingered, leaving me with more questions than answers. The following days were consumed by a relentless quest for information. I delved into the library's archives, uncovering tales of long-lost scholars and the mysterious disappearance of a librarian decades ago. The more I uncovered, the more the lines between reality and the supernatural blurred. To this day, the memory of the library observer haunts my visits, casting a shadow over the once sacred space. The mysterious figure, a guardian of forgotten knowledge, transformed my perception of the library into a realm where history and the inexplicable converge. Ninth story, The Night Watchman by Elena Martinez. In the sprawling cityscape of Los Angeles, where the neon lights of downtown clashed with the darkness of the urban outskirts, I stumbled upon a chilling mystery that unfolded during my late-night shift as a security guard at an abandoned warehouse. Little did I know that the shadows within those desolate walls concealed an enigmatic figure that would forever alter my understanding of the night. The warehouse, once a hub of industrial activity, had long succumbed to decay and neglect. My nightly routine consisted of monotonous patrols through its cavernous interior, the only company being the echoes of my footsteps against the cold concrete floors. One fateful night, as the city slept and the warehouse lay in silent abandonment, I noticed a flicker of movement on the security cameras. The screens displayed a shadowy figure, barely discernible amidst the darkness, wandering through the vast expanse of the warehouse. A surge of adrenaline replaced the weariness of my night shift routine as I hurriedly made my way toward the source of the mysterious intruder. The building's eerie silence was broken only by the distant hum of the city beyond its walls. Navigating through the maze of forgotten machinery and discarded crates, I found myself face to face with the figure, a silhouette draped in tattered clothing, their features obscured by the darkness. The stranger stood motionless, staring into the void as if unaware of my presence. Attempting to maintain a professional demeanor, I questioned the figure about their presence in the abandoned warehouse. The response was an unsettling silence, their gaze unbroken. It was as if they existed on the fringes of reality, a spectral entity haunting the forgotten remnants of industry. As I called for backup, the figure began to move, their steps echoing through the cavernous space. Panic set in as I pursued, the chase leading me through a labyrinth of forgotten corridors and rusting machinery. The figure's elusive nature became increasingly apparent, disappearing into the shadows only to reappear in a different corner of the warehouse. The pursuit reached its climax in a dimly lit room, where the figure finally turned to face me. Their eyes, gleaming with an otherworldly intensity, held a silent message, a message that transcended words and plunged into the depths of the unexplained. Suddenly, the figure dissipated, vanishing like smoke in the wind. The room fell into an oppressive silence, the only evidence of their presence the lingering sense of unease. Backup arrived to find me alone, surrounded by the abandoned remnants of the warehouse. The incident left me questioning the boundaries of reality, and the existence of enigmatic entities that traverse the shadows of forgotten places. The abandoned warehouse, once a mere backdrop to my nightly routine, became a haunting reminder that even in the heart of the city, mysteries linger in the darkest corners. 10th story, The Subway Stranger by Julian Garcia. The bustling city of New York, with its labyrinthine subway system and constant ebb and flow of humanity, became the backdrop for a surreal and unnerving encounter that unfolded during my daily commute. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening when the boundaries between the mundane and the inexplicable blurred, forever altering my perception of the bustling metropolis. As I boarded the crowded subway car, the usual symphony of screeching brakes and muffled conversations enveloped me. The familiar routine of navigating the city's underground arteries became second nature, until a peculiar figure entered the scene, a stranger, seemingly out of place in the sea of commuters. Dressed in outdated attire that harkened back to a bygone era, the stranger captivated my attention. Their eyes, hauntingly intense, scanned the faces of the passengers, yet their gaze seemed to bypass the bustling crowd, fixating solely on me. An uneasy feeling settled over me as I became the unwilling focus of their enigmatic scrutiny. Attempting to dismiss the discomfort, I immersed myself in the rhythmic sway of the subway car. However, the stranger remained a constant presence, their gaze unbroken. As the train hurtled through the dimly lit tunnels, I felt an inexplicable connection, a connection that transcended the confines of time and space. The stranger approached, their movements deliberate yet graceful. Without uttering a word, they handed me a worn envelope before seamlessly melding back into the crowd. Bewildered and intrigued, I opened the envelope to find a faded photograph, a snapshot frozen in time, capturing a moment that mirrored my own surroundings. The image depicted a crowded subway car, bustling with faces from a bygone era, yet eerily identical to the present moment. My reflection stared back at me from the photograph, a jarring reminder that the boundaries of reality had fractured, allowing a mysterious connection between past and present. Questions swirled in my mind as the subway journey continued. Was the stranger a harbinger of the inexplicable, a conduit between parallel moments in time? The mundane surroundings of the subway car became a surreal tableau, each passenger an unwitting participant in a mysterious dance between past and present. As I disembarked at my stop, the stranger faded into the crowded platform, leaving me with more questions than answers. The photograph, a haunting memento of the encounter, became a tangible link between the ordinary and the extraordinary. The city, once a backdrop of routine and familiarity, now held an undercurrent of the unexplained. The subway stranger, an enigmatic figure lost in the folds of time, left an indelible mark on my perception of reality, forever blurring the lines between the everyday and the inexplicable. Thank you for watching whole video. Check this video you see on the screen, it's one of my favorite. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and smash that like, to support my free and daily content for you. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment and tell me what story got you chills.